Is he going to win another big Randwick mile? Superimpose a super horse. What a horse.
Samantha Miss rushed up and hit the lead with 100 metres to go. She shot away. Portillo comes after on the outside, but Samantha Miss, she's too big, she's too strong, and she's too good. Rawilla Ralphy on the favourite, More Joyous to come along the inside out after them, and then Melito, More Joyous giving us back with a whip, took the lead in the flight stakes and she waved them goodbye.
But Winks is starting to unleash with a powerful sprint, and Winks races up to hit the lead. She shot away in the Epsom. It's all over. Hartnell the outside, under his top weight. Hartnell moves up to Dargeno. Hartnell, Dargeno, stride for stride. They hit it. To the sound of my own drum. It goes, they go, we go. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, here we go. Feel it in my soul. Really need it. Happy Clubber a length in front. Tom's running on well, but Happy Clubber hanging on to the Epsom. Happy Clubber. He wins his Group 1 today. Happy Clubber beats Tom Melbourne. Spirit Ridge showing plenty of fight. Rachel King driving hard on Just Fine. The favourite ahead in front, Just Fine. Spirit Ridge really trying to come back. Just Fine, a brave Metropolitan win.
And now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the year-round Carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Ralphy.
It's one of the most iconic race days of the year. Epsom Day at Randwick. Can't wait to talk it through with Vince Accardi from Daily Sectionals. All that audio of past greats, courtesy of Sky Racing. Good morning to you, Vince.
Good morning, Ralphy. What a magnificent morning. A bit overcast in Melbourne, but racing-wise, doesn't matter. Overcast, not overcast, going to be awesome.
It's going to be brilliant at Randwick too, and nice and simple. The rail's true, track good. That's just how we like it. How are you expecting Randwick itself to play?
Well, when you have this sort of setup with a rail true, Ralphie, you will be in a scenario where 5-6 off the fence is the beginning point, followed by the next 5 or 6 lanes. So we would just call it to the naked eye. Hunting up the middle of the track is going to be like a massive advantage, and it's definitely going to be big for the stalkers, the midfielders. Even the back markers might find themselves in the race if they can get that clear run into the lane.
Yeah, let's remind ourselves last year when there's always some hysteria about big race barrier draws. Well, last year, Chihuahua Wolf beat Tom Kitten, beat Royal Patronage, and the Royal double figure odds storming down those middle lanes. So that's the best part of the track at Randwick, mostly.
Right. That's
all
right.
Let's start from race 6. And look, there's a bit of a theme for the day, Vince. There's some short price horses that are a bit hard to fault. And we'll start with the flight stakes, race 6. First of the Group 1s. Apocalyptic's favourite. And we, on our Monday podcast, it was a members bonus. And I said, she's going to be meeting all exact same horses here in a couple of weeks' time. And she was $2.50. I go, there's no way, no, she's going to be $2.50. Well, she meets the horses that ran 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. There's just no different form, and she's no longer $2.50. I suppose let's cut to the chase here. Do you think she justifies the tight price that she is? Because to me, she's pretty hard to fault.
Well, so it's like this always. A horse that hasn't broken benchmark yet, does that justify, in my eyes, a price? Well, yes. I guess that's the question. The reality is it capable of breaking benchmark today? If it can, then it's justified because it'll be simply too good. But realistically, it's reasonably competitive race when you look at it. And I don't know, Ralphie, you got an IVR benchmark you need somewhere around that 2.5 to 3 lengths below benchmark to be competitive. And there is a number of horses that can do that. And the last part is, we are talking a mile. If you get a no-speed race like last start, then Apocalyptic probably justifies the price. But if there's speed, and they run, I would have to say, somewhere in the order of 5-6 lengths quicker, then maybe this will open up.
So, what is your forecast tempo in this race?
Well, the way I've looked at it, Ralph, is I feel it's going to be even tempo. It's definitely going to be quicker than what Apocalypse has faced, probably to the tune of 1 to 3 lengths. Are they going to ultimately end up breaking benchmark through the first section? This could happen, Ralphie. It is possible that this might happen, given that it's not a big field, but it is a mile, and that speed's going to translate. There is a 20% chance they could just all dawdle because everybody's worried about the mile. They want to get it strongly, and this is the on-pace runners. Then we could have a setup that Apocalyptic had last start, and it'll be crushing then.
So, and under the way she's structured herself coming into this race, first up, she came off a long break, 252 days between runs. She was too good, but Tupacara was excellent that day as well. Hence, in that last race, a fortnight back, Tupacara was actually favourite at $2.50 versus Apocalyptic $3. And it's always insightful just seeing what the market thought on the day and then compare notes. Can Tupacara turn the tables on Apocalyptic? What's in the data, and what's the argument to say that there's an opportunity for her to do that?
Well, it's going to all get back down to Ethan and what he does with the horse through that first split time. Given that it's going to be a go-forward horse, if it runs with a bit of pace, where the horse has done that in the past, like it did back in April, then it's going to be extremely vulnerable over the last 200 or 400 metres, because what this horse appears to battle with, it appears to have any sort of a fuel tank left late. And it's still early days because it's a young horse. But there's also that other possibility. Could Ethan want to go to the front and try and stack him up and run that -8 to 6 range through the first section? Then it's still going to have the same problem. It's just going to make it easy for others. So there's no easy answer for Tupacara. And whilst this horse can get the mile, it has to get the mile on its terms to be effective, and that is very slow. And I'm not sure if a couple of the other runners are going to allow that to happen. So it's a risk.
Yeah, so we won't spend a lot of time on this race, but within the laws, probably the other one we should mention, it too, like Tupacara, has at least had a mile run in its armour. And the more I'm sort of thinking about what you're saying, and I'm talking about the price, not the outcome or predicted outcome. I'm saying that I can see why the price was smashed in, but now will the market let you on? I suspect it's probably reached rock bottom there at $1.80, because those two horses have had the taste of the mile, and what you've explained is Apocalyptic. It's still an unknown for this horse.
It is still an unknown. It's just going to get only going to get down to the race shape, Ralphie. It's either going to become a competitive race or a one-horse affair.
Right. And that under that circumstance, that's the type of race we'll talk business tomorrow, but you prefer to watch rather than. But I guess what you're saying is you can't make a case for a horse to beat it, but a fast tempo could see it out.
That's where I feel if there's courage. And a couple of the other horses, like what Garrett McAvoy's on, Enviable, and even Adam Hieronymus on Reflect, if they say, let's turn it into a bit of pressure, then it's going to be very interesting. But if they don't, and we're all going to have a little party, and we're just going to talk to each other and only get interested in the last 400, well, good luck trying to beat Apocalyptic.
All right, race 7, the Premier Stakes. Very, very interesting sprint race here, even though just the 7 runners. This time, in a couple of weeks back, you were expecting a big explosion to come from Private Harry to take this next step. He was very, very disappointing. Of course, Jolly Star blew him away. Briasa was super. Jimmy Star was a bit far back, as Jimmy Star likes to get. But the new information from that race was that Jimmy Star since had a trial as well. So how are you expecting this to unfold tomorrow with Marzu, the near certain leader?
Oh, can you believe it's such a tiny field?
Yeah, exactly.
So this could become a battle of tactics. Yep. It is possible. What's Jason Collett going to do on Marzu? He's going to be critical. Maybe even, I don't know, to me, I'm convinced Private Harry raced flat last start, whether it was from the knuckling at the start or something happened between trial and turning up at the races. But this horse definitely was extremely lackluster, and they're all signals of flatness. So if this horse rebounds, if it does do that, then maybe that'll be the horse that'll take up the running and could inject a bit of speed. Otherwise, Marzu's going to go to the front, and Jason Collett could be completely dictating the terms. But the reality for both horses, unless they put some pressure on, they're going to get run down, Ralphie, by either Barassa or Jimmy Star.
Well, they've got the fully franked big closes on them, haven't they?
They have, Ralphie, and they love multiple setups. Speed, not going to be an issue. No pace, not going to be an issue. Because if it becomes a sit and sprint, on the way I'm looking at the lens of the last 400 and 200, these horses have a marked advantage somewhere to the range of 4 to 6 lengths. That's a lot, Ralphie. That is such a big edge. Therefore, you could be going 20 lengths below benchmark, be at the back of the pack, and they'll just run straight past you.
Yes.
And if they run with a bit of speed, which I don't know if it's going to be there, then they'll probably thrive further. Yeah, so Private Harry, if he could return and deliver something that this horse I was hoping we were going to see, then we could have a little bit of excitement in the race. Because if you go all the way back to the Newcastle run, when it had its first race start and there was no tempo, Private Harry that day did put down a plus 7.9 last 400. So that could make it scary. But since that run, its profile firmly sits around plus 2 to plus 3 above the benchmark over the last 400 metres. And that's the horse's profile. As soon as it has to use a bit more speed, it can't deliver the big sprint. So it's a cruising horse. It has to run with a bit of momentum, and it has to keep rolling. If it doesn't do that, then it's hard. And I just don't know. I still think about it today, Ralphie. Right now, I'm saying I just could not understand for the life of me. The horse has gone into a barrier trial. This is Private Harry. Pretty much bang on benchmark. I rarely see horses not dramatically leap off that. And here we are. We had a horse that went actually backwards from the trial. Lost for words. How that could be possible.
There's one thing that's nagging at me, and that is he pretty much did it all at his first prep. That's stunning. What was it, 5-run streak? Yep. And he's a stallion. I've got no proof of that. I've got nothing else, but I just think sometimes those, no, Wade Hawkes often said it over the journey that colts, and then this time he's just a year older, but they go to the well as a spring colt, and then they come back and they go, you know what, I want to go to the breeding barn. Yeah. And so it's such an either or setup for him, because as you said, the trial was so stunning and the race day performance was just so flat.
Yeah. So for me, I would love to see what I was expecting, having a benchmark trial, knowing that was like already 4 lengths better than your first race start at Newcastle, that things could get exciting, right?
Yeah.
That this horse could just blow past the plus 2-3 range and become some serious horse. I mean, I hope we see that version, because then what a race it's going to be over the last 400 or 500 metres. It'll be just an unbelievable race. But could you go and invest in that type of setup? Well, not me.
Jimmy Star since trial, as I mentioned. What did you see on the clock at Rosehill?
Jimmy Star. Maybe this is the Star, Ralphie. Trial, fantastic. The one on the 23rd of the 9th. Third best trialer of the morning. Really crazy, Ralphie. Dead set race simulation. 600 metres. I was going to say almost 800, but you can lock it in 600 metre race simulation. 6 to the 4.7 below benchmark, 4 to the 2.5 above, last 200, 3.3 above. And overall scoreline, minus 1.3, absolute low point, trending to benchmark off the trial. And then I sort of just peel it back and say, if there was any possibility you could have, or you know, like that break in between was going to have some challenges. And sometimes when horses are older, Ralphy, you know, and I know that they could go sideways second up, even if they have a bit longer break. But when you put the trial in, I call it the Chris Wallace special, right? All those things just disappear. The flatness is gone if you had it. I felt there was a little bit of flatness about it, Ralphie, right? And now it's going to be ready. And I've got a feeling this horse is going to turn up and say, I'm here. And you can just see from this horse's profile the booming sprint that it has. I actually can't wait for this race because it could turn out to be just a massive war between either two horses or three horses.
So part of the art of this caper, art, science, whatever, is trying to see how a race is going to unfold. And there's one problem here with Briasa, and that's strike happy. Is there a chance that Briasa is going to be third defence? Let's keep in mind both these horses, their grand finals in 2 weeks at the Everest. Always going to put in the trainer's intent. The Briasa sits third defence, cruising. But if Jimmy Star's a length off him, and then Ethan Brown just goes, right, I'm going to peel 5 wide, right down those middle lanes, gee, Briasa's going to have to be good and possibly need luck with Jimmy Star having full momentum.
Yeah, particularly if Ralphie, if that's the way you're looking at it, it's that possibility of Briasa staying like in lanes 2, 3 or 4. Yep. It's the same as being on 1, it'll be, right? You will lose an edge. You'll lose an edge minimum over the last 250 of about 1.5 lengths. So that means your sprint will be reduced and it will be enhanced by the runners that are in lane 6, 7, 8, which is where they could peel out to in this small field. That's possible, Ralph. But Tyler Schiller, I've watched a lot of his rides. I don't know if he's learnt this or he's watched others. He knows where the lanes are. Like, he actually knows where the lanes are. So he wouldn't be very intelligent if he says, I'll just sit on the fence. He's got time. If he takes a sit in a small field, he's got lots of time at the bottom of the turn, coming to the bottom of the turn, to get off the fence and start looking for the angles to the left. And if he doesn't do that, like you sort of touched on, Ralphie, that he might stay on the fence because he might have no other option and he gets closed in, then you're right, he's going to have a problem.
Who wins a 400-metre race for those two?
Jimmy.
In other words,
Jimmy.
Jimmy's got the best kick?
By a good, decent margin. If you saw the very, very best of Private Harry and you said to me, Accardi, we're going to be -8 to -12, then possibly you would have this inkling that Private Harry might make it a contest to the last 50 or 100 metres, who's got the bigger close. But Jimmy Star has definitely got the big, brutal close over the whole competition.
So I just wanted to finish on that because Briasa's $1.90, Jimmy Star's $3.40, $3.50 range, and I think a lot of people will be taking some multis on some, in quotation marks, good things tomorrow. I'd be wary with Briasa given how good Jimmy Star is under that circumstance. What you're saying is it's very possible for Jimmy Star to run past a lot of them.
Very, very possible. We've always got to rein in the last part. It's that class level. There's not a lot between them either on class level. Briasa, Ralphie, we know, is already like a pretty much rock solid +3, +4 horse and is anchored at that range of 11 to 1,200 metres. Like, it's already proven that it's got that under the armour. And Jimmy Star is probably 2.5 +3 horse to maybe +4. That's class-wise, there's not much between him. Like, they're very similar in class. And now, I'm not sure, is Jimmy Star going to be a better horse than the last 2 campaigns? Well, he's turned up first up and gone superbly, but when I put the graph on, he's only trending to his line. Now, I have to do a little bit of adjustment because it was 1,000 metres, completely, too short for the horse. And then Briasa, when I put the lens on that horse, there's multiple cases to indicate this horse is possibly a 2-length better horse than last campaign, which would then put it in the +6 range. You have to factor class in. We've got to factor that in.
It's going to be a super race.
Yeah.
Epsom Handicap here. The traditional Randwick Mile is a 20-horse field, and they go like mad. They didn't in the Doncaster this year. That was a really unusual race shape. And the Epsom, well, it's 14 horses instead of 20 horses. So we always got to put the lens that each race is its own island. And what island do you expect the pace to be on this one?
Yeah, well, I love it that it's 14 horses and not 20, personally. I know a lot of people say, 20 horses, you're going to get better odds. I can't help but feel it's harder because there's more things that can go wrong and you get a little bit less luck depending on which runner you're on. So 14 horses, I reckon it improves your chances of finding the winner. It even sort of helps solidify a bit more that pace range, which is so important there. And this is the crazy thing. Fully Lit, Pericles, high probability of being the engagers for the speed.
Yes.
So then I look at Fully Lit and say, okay, there's no problems. You're going to go bottom end, benchmark +1. So this is the starting point of the way I'm looking at it. Top end at the moment sits around the +3 range. So if you had a 20-horse field, you'd probably have to overextend beyond the +3. Therefore, it becomes a +5 or 6 range race in terms of first section, and that's like extreme heat. And then I go to myself, all right, well, what about Pericles? Well, we've seen Pericles. Pericles has got this versatility about it, Ralphy. It can go +5, 6 if it has to, even faster, but it can also just blend in and run -2 to 4. And then I look at it and say, well, there's a big chance it could just take into the slipstream and just say, well, I'm going to go Fully Lit's pace and just sit off that. So if Fully Lit's fully wound up in terms of maximum momentum, because there's no one else pressurising, we could be +1, +3, and therefore Pericles is going to go benchmark. And again, if there was a 20-horse field, that horse would be asked to do a lot more. And then all of a sudden we'd have an explosive race through the first half. And then who else is really there? Who's going to really want to challenge those two?
No,
the lead.
Be a lot of position running, sort of jockeying, literally. And the starting point question has to be Autumn Glow, outside barrier, but barrier 14. This time last year, the winner came from barrier 14, Giella Wolf. Autumn Glow, unbeaten, got the rightful boom on it. A, how good is she? B, what's your forecast to the mile tomorrow? Because it is a new distance for her.
It's going to eat the mile up like I just can't help but feel the mile's like it's going to be like a little picnic for the horse. You have a look at it. I've always felt all along this horse is better than Lady Shenandoah, and so far I'm not seeing any reason why it isn't going to be. What's happened is there's been a containment on distance, so we haven't seen this horse fully explode. It's a bit like Wings, Ralphy. Amazing 1,200 metres in that, but once it started to stretch out, it became lethal. How can you forget the day like when it was I think it was in Eagle Farm, where it sort of gave the whole field a head start and beat them all because it finally got some distance. So this is the sort of horse that could be sitting at the back of the field and just reel them all in, because we don't know how good this horse really is. What I can say is this. The horse's last 400 metres can be as brutal as around +7, 8 range. And that was in its first campaign. And it wasn't even tested. Mid-race squeeze, 12.5 lengths. That's such a big, vital insight for this race. Then we look at last start. Here it is, 1,300 metres, Ralphie. The horse is going good pace, 3.1 lengths below benchmark. So you put the optics on. Yes, is the horse going to be caught wide? If there's no pace up front, the rider's not going to have too many options. So I either have to roll in a real forward motion to get in, but there's no speed. Then this horse will be travelling -1, benchmark, -2 or 3, and be in a very forward position. And even off a benchmark line, the horse has got at least a plus 4.5, 5, 400 metre sprint. And it's not tested. This horse could find another 3 or 4. We don't know. But I look at the intel and say, we're going to probably find out tomorrow how much more you're going to improve by. And is this horse going to become the new, I don't want to say Winx, but let's just say something along those lines going to emulate that type of capability, because it's unbeaten and it hasn't been tested.
Yeah, well, I've seen a few people call her Baby Winx over the journey, and there's a reason for it. I mean, just from her debut, her debut run just was ridiculous, and she has yet to do one thing that said there's a ceiling on her.
That's right, and this is the battle. So, could you get stuck at the gates? Could you find yourself at the very back of the field? It depends on what your position is and your view is, like of a rider like Kerrin McEvoy. What's your thoughts on Kerrin McEvoy in terms of a rider at the moment?
No problem. But the one thing is, I can't help thinking if it was Craig Williams, he would go straight to the front, or at least roll forward and say, "Well, I don't care because I'm not connected to the Chris Waller stable." That's what he does. He just goes, "Yep, I'll do what's best for me today." Whereas Kerrin McEvoy will be under, I think, strict instructions: get cover, get cover, get cover. And then under that circumstance, could see him maybe drift a little further back than ideal. But in the end, if it's got that big booming sprint, I would actually prefer Kerrin McEvoy from wide than from barrier 1, where there's potential for traffic. There won't be a traffic problem here. There could be a race shape problem. I doubt it, but I don't think there'll be a traffic problem, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I just feel that they're going to go straight forward, Ralphie. Because you look at the MLF on the horse, that's the margin from the leader on its historical profile. The further it's ever been back from the leader is 3.5 lengths.
That's what I'm saying. There's no reason to go back.
Nah, they'll be ludicrous if that happens.
Unless they're so fixated on getting cover that it ends up being a big negative position-wise. So Pericles returned in super fashion, but as you said, we know him. And one of the things that we pointed out on the Monday podcast, as good as he was, and we're not knocking him in any way, that was Bjorn Baker putting on a show for Godolphin and clearly had him wound up and fit. So as good as he is, he almost certainly can't be any better today.
Well, yeah, the reality is might be a little bit more improvement to come off that run. Yep. Just looking at the scoreline, if we just go back to the August profile, Ralphie, first up Caulfield, it was 1,400 metres, produced a +2. Yep. Then came out over 1,500 metres at Moonee Valley and went 3.6 above. So there is this possibility. It's come out and gone +1.4. I'm under no illusions. This horse, I feel, is going to turn up and run rock solid mid-2s. Why? Because it's got a golden race shape. It absolutely has. If you could script the perfect race scenario, this horse has got it. So I'm going to pay an immense respect. The reality is, though, we sort of know the ceiling, like you said.
Sorry, that's the point I was trying to make. We know his ceiling. Yeah,
we know the ceiling, right? Yeah. So if you can get up around that 2.5 to 3 ranges, typically there is this possibility a touch more, but that's the limit. And that might not be enough if Autumn Glow's sitting outside you, Ralphie.
So let's get to Chihuahua Wolf because, as I said, he won this race last year and then he went from there and won the King Charles. And when we did the preview pod a couple of weeks ago and also on the Monday, the one thing that scratched my head is that he was so good last spring. He was so good. But this year, yes, he's had excuses along the way, but he's sort of been floating in that 1.5 range, hasn't he? He's been below what he did last year.
Yeah. Here's the weird part. If you look at the runs, they've been improving each run. 0.7 below benchmark, 0.1 above, last start plus 1.4. So on the curve, it's doing exactly one thing, trending up. Now, is that a trend towards, oh my goodness, back in October 24 when the horse produced a plus 5.2 and said, what have we got on our hands here? What's the potential of this horse, right? That last campaign, it's completely missing. Now, I don't know why these things happen. And then I look at this last run, Ralphie. You can't help but feel, okay, you could say, well, did the horse put in? Well, it's still improving. And then I look at the lens of the last 200 metres. The signal is two options. Did the horse really peak off a 4.3 length below benchmark first section? Did it peak between the 6 and the 4 when it hit a plus 3.4? And then all we've seen is one signal downwards. Plus 1.4, lost 2 lengths between the 4 and the 2, and then lost a further length over the last 200 metres. I'm actually saying this, Ralphie. I reckon the horse was flat from the run before. Because you look at that run before at a mile, and you have a look at the data, the 6 to the 4 line is almost identical, 3.1 versus 3.4. But then when you look at the 4 to the 2, it was actually stronger. This is shallow, was 2.4 versus 1.4. Why is there a 1 length decline? Why? And then you look at the last 200 metres, it was a length and a half superior, almost plus 2 for the last 200 metres. So I'm taking that position. Now, I have seen the other side of the lens. This is also a potential signal. Now, I don't want to go there because it's only third up and we've still got an upward trend line. Sometimes when horses run like that, they're going sideways and downwards. Like they're not the same horse. So it's speculation. But I feel that, unfortunately, I'm going to know after the weekend whether this horse isn't going to get anywhere near and can only trend to a plus 2, or that possibility that it was somewhat flattened by that second run. It's a little bit older horse, and now it could explode. Maybe.
So it's fork in the road time for it.
Yep,
Let's
in the road.
Let's touch on 3 horses. 1, Swift Falcon. What a punter's nightmare this bloke's been. He's been beaten in the last year at $2.60, $3.70, $4, odds on twice. Last start, $3 at Newcastle. But the reason he's been starting so short is he has a phenomenal mid-race capacity and an ability to keep chasing. Tomorrow, Blinker's first time, third up, grand final, Team Hawks. Is there a chance we get to see everything unfold perfectly for Swift Falcon?
Yeah, and drawn golden, right?
Yes.
Yeah, come back a little bit softer than last campaign, but that could be by design. Yep. There's a little bit of a signal there indicating that there was something there for the horse in that first up run with the plus 4.2 last 400. Very strong finish. And you are right, Ralphie. This is one horse that has a potential massive weapon that could even give a scare to Autumn Glow if everything presents itself correctly. Because I'm just sitting back here. I wonder how Autumn Glow would handle a surge like a plus 18 to 20 length mid-race surge from a horse like this. And if they're running in an orderly manner, drawn 4, and you're in the middle of the pack, and you can get away from into the right lanes, you've got such a booming sprint on you that's capable of almost touching plus 10. You would scare anybody in the field. So that's its capability. It's a dangerous horse. Out of all the horses, I still worry about this horse the most. About
as far as the danger to Autumn Glow.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's on the table there. The other ones I want to put to you is Pear. Now, Pear, after it won at Queensland, you did say this could have a Group 1 mile in its armour. That's how good its performance was at Eagle Farm. Clearly given a freshen up, clearly not wound up last start, and tomorrow's grand final day. What type of performance could he do being an older horse, but fairly lightly raced?
Well, he is very lightly raced. I just wonder if he's half run short. Just a little bit of a concern for me. Is he just that half a run short? Does he need this run to bring him to the stop? Obviously, that's the plan. This is the race. It likes pressure, and if the pressure was there, it would be a massive plus for this horse. A little bit like that Beerwag or that horse we've seen that won the race
Beerwag.
last. Yep, where it just went high cruising from start to finish. This horse has that capacity. Be a high cruising horse, can run fast from start to finish, can absolutely eat up tempo. First up run, I worry about that -6 first section. Is that enough to really have you right for this race? That's my only reservation. Class-wise, has to find a couple, but you can find it. It's not like this horse has had 100 starts and there's no chance in the world. No, this horse can find a new level. And from a trend perspective, if you're just looking first up versus first up, all the signs are that you're going to blow right past the plus 1.6. But are you a horse that needs a specific setup? Do you need to have that pace to be dangerous and at your best? And are you going to be okay with a sprint, a race where it's going to be it could turn into just an even sort of tempo with a tough last 800, 600 metres? I'm not sure if that's going to work for you because it's a cruising horse, Ralphy.
And let's finish with Willie Dewitt, who's second up, came from that Pericles race. The lens I should put on it when I ask you is that it's only second up, second prep for Kieran Maher, and he's made no secret that this is a short-term grand final. It's a Kiwi who won their derby, and he's since had a barrier trial to bring him on. So if everything fell into place on numbers to date, could he be in the finish?
No. Because this horse needs, at the moment, it looks like a little bit of a flashing light potential because it's all been done off no pace races. Even the New Zealand.
You're a serious Kieran Maher birthday bonus, aren't you?
Yeah, you need the bonus like you need a massive bonus.
All right. So it sounds like we've got 3 short price favourites. This horse isn't odds on. We've spoken about 2 horses that are. This is the one you're most confident of the 3 we've mentioned to date, Autumn Glow.
I just reckon Kieran's going to roll forward.
Yep.
Park himself, 1 pair back, 2 pairs back. Worst case scenario, 3 pairs back, because that's your safe haven. Just roll forward. You're going to get a slot, guaranteed. You'll get a slot, and good luck from there.
All right. Well, this is a big field. 18 horses going around in the Metropolitan over 2,400 metres. One of these iconic races, and tempo is obviously a critical part of a big staying race. How do you expect it to unfold?
It all gives the signal that we're going to have speed.
Nice.
Good speed. Yeah, Ralphie, we're going to have good speed.
Well, under that circumstance, now Birdman last start, we're talking about Kieran McAvoy rather.
Yep.
Freudian slip, and a wide barrier. Same but different here on Birdman, because Birdman will be able to, you would think, slot in, slot across, and settle in that midfield position. I think there's no question he's set for tomorrow. There's been his grand final since he came into the stable, and I think that might have been a bonus win on the way through last start. So, what type of performance did he do in his win leading into this?
Well, the first thing that I loved is there it is, 0.6 below benchmark first split time for 2,000 metres. Yep, last race, fantastic. Then between the 8 and the 4, the horse had nice momentum, was travelling 3.1 above. Last 400 was off, but still above benchmark. But I just have to go back and say, well, you've got to look at what happened between the 4 and the 2. The horse did lose 1.7 lengths of energy distribution. That wasn't like a clean run where really in that type of setup you could have just kept rolling. I have no doubt that performance would have been even better, but at the same time, it's not going to be a negative now because it's happened, that run, and it's still produced victory. I look at this horse, its cruise position is 3 to 5 lengths from the leader, and if they run with pace, where would that mean? So I am forecasting that we're going to go benchmark at least. You could be going +5 or 8. It's possible, Ralphie. I'm not going to rule that out. So I wanted to know, number one, can Birdman handle at least benchmark speed through the first half? Well, the proof was there last start. Why not? The horse has also gone 5.2 lengths above benchmark at 3,200 metre scenario. So, okay, that might not have been the best outcome for the horse that particular day. I don't believe it has to do anything like that here. But Benchmark, it can handle that sort of speed and still have a finish.
So on the day, as I said, it was a very high tempo race, and the first two, it won by nose over Adelaide River, who, as you've always said, has got real talent from overseas. Looks like Chris Lees has got him right again. And there was 4 lengths to the rest. There was a reason why they really peeled out. But amongst those in the beaten brigade were two that we got to pay tremendous respect for. And it starts with Vauban, who was $2.20 for a reason. And Arapaho, the Sydney Cup star, it was $8 for a reason. The tempo in a race, and as you always say, trainers can plot their way through, but you don't know what's going to happen in a race that unfolds. There's no way they would have been ideal having that horse set for that type of heat. So they were both probably entitled to gas out. Could either or both rebound tomorrow?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And they've got the class capability of being extremely competitive here. The hurdle rate's Benchmark here, Ralphy, and both those horses can smash through that barrier. And in some ways, having that little bit of a test, first time 2000 for the prep, let's say for Vauban, and having to travel 1.6 lengths above Benchmark, I wouldn't say that's its favourite thing to do, because last campaign when it was asked to go 2.1 above Benchmark, it spat the dummy in the end, right? So where they're going to position the horse will be really important. But if they try and eyeball up front or be in a really aggressive forward position, I would say good night to Vauban. Personally, it's going to have to be a run where it sits off the pace in the middle of the pack for it to produce its best. And if it does that, and it can breathe through the first half of the race and only have to travel around that Benchmark -2 or 3 range, then we're going to see the explosion. The explosion's definitely there, Ralphie, and the horse is going to love this distance. On the other hand, Arapaho also really tasted the medicine last up, and I feel that this was actually going to be the bigger beneficiary of that run, because I looked at the first up run, 19.2 lengths below Benchmark, first section, then made a massive climb in early speed when it went to the mile, second up, and was still travelling 5.5 below. And then last start, up to 2,000, and the horse has been asked to go almost +2. Now, you look at this horse's historical blueprint, it's a horse that rarely surfaces and races above Benchmark at this distance range. Rarely. The reality is this horse likes to relax, also be in this perfect rhythm, 2 to 4 lengths below Benchmark, and then it can unleash. So now having that run where there was plenty of pressure, and you could see the big drop-off over the last 400, like it was 5 lengths below Benchmark last 400, like the horse was done. It's going to be a big leaper. I reckon it's going to be a bigger leaper than Vauban.
Well, look, they're both $12 range, and with the big spread in the weights, you're going to get a very good price for two very talented horses. So particularly for taking multis, you'd want to be careful there. Let's go to the Chris Waller stablemate, who's he's actually current favourite, Solar Spain over Birdman, and he comes from the Newcastle race. His form's faultless leading in, but there's a big flashing light in the difference in race shapes between what happened at Newcastle and what the form line is for the likes of Vauban, Arapaho, and of course Birdman, isn't there, tempo-wise?
Yeah, there is. Lucky that this horse had those first 2 runs, Ralphie, in terms of being okay for this race, because off last start, it would be a big problem. 19.3 lengths below Benchmark, first half of the race. Not ideal, right, for a race like this. But those 2 previous runs, the one at Doomben, where it went 4.1 below Benchmark early, look at the sustained speed this horse showed. Between the 8 and the 4, plus 4.9, last 400, plus 5.1. That's brilliant, given that you went from 1,600 metres to the 2,000 and produced that. And even the run before at 1,680, similar pace, 4.5 lengths below Benchmark, 0.2 above between the 8 and the 4, 1.6 above last 400. What that demonstrates is how much the horse jumped up in improvement when it went to 2,000. Just made this massive leap. Loves this distance, and everyone should be very scared of this horse.
So he deserves great respect.
Absolutely.
All right, let's finish off with changing the guard. fairly lightly raced. Second prep, Team Williams. Now with Chris Waller, had a big break before, just like I like calling it a cameo run in mid-June. Good at Flemington, and then not just good last start at Randwick, but with a brilliant tactical ride from James McDonald that just gave Travolta no chance, who was odds-on favourite on the day.
Yeah. Well, this horse I can't help but feel can only do one thing, and that's improve. What this runner demonstrates very clearly, and probably more so than a lot of other horses, is its mid-race capacity is outstanding. Have a look at that line in the MRS. 15.5 length mid-race squeeze between the 8 and the 400. We can go all the way back to August 24. Then you can look at September last year. The squeeze was almost 20 lengths, Ralphy. 19.6 lengths squeeze. Like, we're talking about 3 to 4 seconds of acceleration between the 8 and the 400. And then it hasn't disappeared. At Flemington, in a no-speed race, had to put in a 17.3 length mid-race move. That's massive. And then last start, here it is cruising along 9.4 lengths below benchmark. Still put down a comfortable 12.7 length mid-race move. That's 2 seconds of acceleration. And you didn't really have to do that if you didn't want to, but it did. And there was a little bit of a dip between the 4 and the 2. I felt it cost the horse a length and a half to 2 lengths. When I say it cost it, in terms of if you had the most efficient run, that's how much your score line would improve. That's what I mean by cost it, is how much better could you have really done if it was all perfect? Probably +2. Now, if you've got that lens, how would you feel about the horse?
You'd feel like there's more to come.
Exactly. And that's what I reckon is going to happen, more to come.
All right, looks like a super race. We'll talk business tomorrow. Last race, we'll start picking up the pace here on a few of these. It's an open race according to the betting markets here, but there's one standout, and that is Firestar looks a super price, because what he did first up, it's just like the market got him wrong that day and they refused to change their opinion of him, because he did return with a very good effort, didn't he?
Unless something's happened, Ralphy, that's beyond my knowledge, and I look at everything, all the metrics, 21 days between run tick, first up performance, half a length above benchmark. You franked that multiple occasions, 2 campaigns back. You didn't do it last prep, but this horse is running to that profile of 2 preps back. When the horse was hitting form, the horse has already hit form. There's no way this horse is going backwards, Ralphie. And I was looking, I've got to get this off the top. There's no way this horse is going to do it. But then I'll look at it and say, no. This would be stupid of me to do that, because there's no justification. Like if it was a mile, I could say straight away, all right, we've got a reason. But there isn't. This horse should only be doing one thing, improving off the first up run. It's the best first up run this horse has put in. And it was no fluke.
Like that leading in, didn't he?
Yep, he did. And no fluke, Ralphie. And then I look at the tempo. Yes, was it a perfect distribution run? Yes, it was. But 3.5 lengths below benchmark first section. It's not over the top. It's so much inside this horse's wheelhouse. You have a look when it hit its golden form, and this is all between the September and November range of 24. Its early speed when it was winning is anywhere between half a length above benchmark and +3. So no one can tell me that you were remotely at your top last start. You got so much versatility. This big field isn't going to be a problem for the horse, because if there's pressure, this horse is going to cope with it. So I only see
running jockey. A good lead pack jockey in Josh Parr. He'll just slot in where needed.
Yeah, I just feel this horse is going to improve. So I said, oh well, yep, I'm different to the market, and that's okay. I'm just working on pure numbers, and I can't fault the horse at all, and the horse is going to improve. Now,
well,
something else is, unless something else has happened that I'm not aware of, maybe the horse doesn't feel the best or whatever.
I will touch on Get a Fix. I think he's a rising talent, and he should not have won when he won that day when Nash put on a clinic on called Jakey up front. It was a leader bias track, and I thought, well, why is the market crushing this horse? They must have a huge opinion of it, and he justified it. How's he going at the trials? Because I think he's a talent with more to come.
Yeah, he's a horse definitely with ability, Ralphy, no question. His trials have been... the last one's probably the most important one because it was 1,050. I call them half runs. Last 200 was pleasing. It was a 2.6 above, but I still felt that because it was the right distance of 1,050 metres, I don't feel there was enough there in the first split time and the second split time for me to say, yeah, I rubber stamped the trial. Like all the indicators are like you need a run. That's the indicators. And so I've got to respect that for myself. And then I look at the profile of the horse and say, okay, what do you typically do first up? You're somewhere around that 2.5 to 3.5 below benchmark type runner first up and say, okay, is there any chance? Well, you're trending to do that. It doesn't, the trials will sort of give you the insight to say, oh no, this horse is going to turn up and run benchmark. Now, maybe it just turns up and they wanted to keep it fresh, so we're going to have an explosion. Not sure that's this type of horse for this race because there's going to be pressure. It's not the ideal race to turn up in first up, but Ralphy, if the talent's really there, here's the place to display it.
Absolutely. Touch on race 5. You low confidence, $2.50 idle fly. It's a very tight price, and given some of the other tight prices on good horses that we've got today, do you think there's a reason to justify the $2.50?
I marked it low because, first of all, I'm all over the place compared to the market. Every runner is genuinely in the below benchmark range, like from 0.9 below down to 3.5, and these are the horses that I consider to be a competitive chance. The hurdle rate, though, surprisingly, is 1.5 below. So if I was using that metric, that's really tight. And 2.4 idle fly, well, there's not a chance in a million I'd be jumping to take that sort of price. It doesn't mean it can't win.
Yep, that's all I wanted to hear. Race 4, Without Peers, the favourite. It's reasonably tight, but it's about $4 range. It was well beaten last up, but in a race of a fair bit of class, and that's unlike a lot of these others have yet to meet it. The 60s won from Morden Boy, and also was a tough day to make ground. So you'd probably have to say it was a pass mark there. Just how does it match up with a horse like Ruination? Because what interests me with Ruination is it comes from a race of genuine tempo at Newcastle. So could be more to come there.
Oh, that was brutal. That run at Newcastle, absolutely brutal, and the evidence is there. Look at the last 400, 10.8 lengths below benchmark.
So could that get a reverse race shape tomorrow? And when you see that, it's usually called springtime.
Yeah, well, there's a few things. That's one. And also, how much you elevate. How much you're going to elevate from that race. It's the old story. You know this, Ralphy. If you get out and you have a super gutsy 400-metre run, and you just... your mission is that you have to go flat out from start to finish. You're going to tank right out over the last 150 metres because you want to breathe early. And then the following scenario is you come out the week later and says, okay, well, today just be cruisy. You're going to have an explosion late. So you're right, Ralphy. We're going to have this coil spring, like you said. There's no chance they're going to go near this speed. No chance at all. Therefore... this is going to be very dangerous horse because if this horse is allowed to run benchmark +1, what on earth is it's going to do over the last 400 metres to this field?
Nice. All right. That sounds like an each-way opportunity, but we'll talk business tomorrow. And we'll just finalise by saying in the 2-year-olds races 2 or 3, is there anything at the trials that have really caught your eye?
Yeah, I do like the trial... That race 3, I like that race.
Sheiky
and DeBella. DeBella can't be underestimated. I'm surprised, like where they've got a position. I try to look for opportunities in 2-year-olds. In recent years, I haven't had that good fortune of finding these horses because sometimes they can just be. I just say, not that it's right. They look like easy money. because horses are overrated. You know, they price them on boom, and they've done nothing, then they don't do anything, right? Yet the clock brings you reality. Yes, you see, I don't know why they do these things, Ralphie, with these first two. Why on the Kenzo? Why on the Kenzo? And that's the only reservation. But these two horses, they would be the sort of horses I'd like to target to back. But because they come from the Kenzo trials, I have to take a sit and watch.
Well, if you're in that mindset, $16 at the moment for DeBella. Sheiky's a favourite at low threes. We'll leave it there. As I said, we'll talk business tomorrow, going through all races just from an outlay perspective. But in the meantime, hope you enjoyed and get something out of our deep dive in Epsom Handicap Day 2025. Thanks so much for being a customer of Year Round Carnival.